What up? It's at St. Lauren 57, sober, celibate, and saved. Today is Wednesday night, which is AA here at St. John's, and I'm really glad. Well, I would have come anyway. The March God First sermon is and dinner is no longer happening at my church, so of course back to business as usual. And I'm just really grateful that H&I does come here, and it's so there are a handful of ladies who, may have a service commitment to come here, to do NA, to do AA. And while I was at the NA convention, I was so blessed that I ran into all three ladies that I met through NA here. That would come through H&I, and their service commitments have ended. And I was super grateful that I got to see them at the NA convention. Like, it was such a God shot, because I had ran into one of them twice, and then the second time I ran into her, I was like, hey, like, have you seen so-and-so? And she was like, she's right over there. And so then when I saw her, like, I hugged her and she hugged me, and like, I haven't got to see them because on Thursday nights, I don't get to do the H&I Narcotics Anonymous meeting here at St. John's. I have to go to my domestic violence program. So unfortunately, I've been missing those ladies for I started going on October 30th, I think. Yeah, I think it was October 30th. I started going, so it's been November, December, January, February, March, April. So it's been almost 5 months, and I just got to talk to her a little bit and tell her how I'm doing. I told her how I got a car. She started crying, and it just was like, and it's funny because I saw one who, had brought another lady who chaired, and then they started being of service, and then they brought someone to chair, and then they started being of service. So I love being able to, I just love that, like, I get to go out now. Like, my process, my recovery, and my process and my progress and my recovery is like the longevity of it, and how it's just what that journey looks like doing the meetings here on the inside and going to the outside, and then being able to have a fellowship and community with the women who came here, committed to their recovery, and in turn recommitted to our recovery, and the fact that now we can stay in touch and things like that. But also it made me think of tonight I came to AA, and the way we have mandatory classes here, and technically you're supposed to go to NA and AA your first 30 days, and a lot of women either don't know that, or I do know sometimes the women of H&I, they don't show up, and but I mean in the same token. And so anyways, tonight there's a woman who always comes the second Wednesday of every week, and so I've almost been here at St. John's for a year. So I've known this woman for a year, and she's known me for a year, because primarily, I'm the main one who I am literally the only one who's continued to go to AA and NA on site since I started. Like I said, some people don't know that they should be going their first 30 days, and obviously the meetings are, late at night where certain staff's not here, et cetera, whatever, it doesn't matter. But so because first it was just me and her, and there's another lady who came briefly, but she was okay, well, because I told her I have been sober from alcohol for a year. The last time I drank was on March 21st of 2025, when I was in Woodland, and I was with my friend Rachel, and her and her husband were like, oh, what do you want to do for your birthday? And so I went to his friends with them, and they were doing poker, and so we had some few beers, whatever. But it was a year for alcohol on the 21st of March. And so yeah. So she's like, well, you have your year, so you're going to chair. And so I, like my story doesn't, like, I mean, my story has alcohol in it, but that's not my DOC. But I mean, I think people are mistaken. Like, alcohol is a drug. Alcohol is the gateway drug. And, the way that society portrays alcohol, like, it's a celebratory thing. It's like, it's literally glorifies what addiction is anyway. Like, what we use other substances for anyway. Like, celebrating, or had a rough day, need to chill out, want to relax. Like, it's used for the same exact reasons why people smoke weed, smoke crack, shoot up heroin, do, like, what I'm saying, do meth, want to have a good time, want to forget, want to numb, want to not feel, need to relax. Because no matter what it is, pharmaceuticals, whatever, like, that's the whole point of substances, is for us to, at first it's like, oh, it's a good time, and oh, I feel better while I'm doing this. But then when you have trauma and unresolved issues, and if you're an addict and you have the allergy, then alcohol does something a little bit different. And so do the other drugs. You know what I'm saying? You end up doing them to numb, to not feel, to have a false sense of self, Anyways. But so there is alcohol in my story, because, I have, my father's an alcoholic, and I suffered abuse and grew up with fear because of his addiction, and what that looked like, and what that did for him, and watching how that changed his personality. And then obviously, I drank in high school a little bit, but then when I drank and I blacked out. And then that, that took into, my, my young adult years and stuff like that. But alcohol, like, I have to be in the mood to want to get fucked up. Otherwise, it's not going to happen, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't like the taste of it necessarily. I have to be, like, in the mood, But I mean, I'm a Laudermilk. I love to have a Truly and be by the water. You know what I'm saying? And I can just have one. You know what I'm saying? It's the liquor, like the brown liquor, I can't drink. I become a monster if I have brown liquor. And that's the one thing that about alcohol is, I mean, alcohol kills so many people, and it really gets our youth into addiction sooner, because, the moment you turn 21, that's what everyone focuses on, is on getting that first drink, that first legal drink. And then, and then some people have already been drinking for a while, and that's when people find out if they, well, they might not really know until life really starts getting rocky that they have the addiction. They have allergy to alcohol. But anyway, so I told my story, and I'll get into that part. But she was just talking about, like, how much she's seen the change in me, like how, and I've been seeing this person at least once a month. So what? I've seen her 12 times since I've been here, because there's what? Well, that's a lie. Because there's 4 times 12. So 4 times 8, 4. It's like almost 50 times I've seen her this, and since my time at St. John's, I've seen her 50 times, every Wednesday of every week since I've been here. And every second Wednesday anyway. And so, yeah, I guess that's technically once a month. But anyways, and so it's just, being able to hear somebody who has 32 years, 32 years sobriety. And, sometimes in the meetings, it's just me and her, and I really appreciated that. But also, the thing about alcohol for me is that's where I first got uncomfortable with men. That was like my first, like, feeling about alcohol and men was uncomfortable. And that's because, like, the things that happened to me when I was a kid, with my dad, and my dad drinking. And then, being that protector and stuff like that. And just, I can become another person when I drink. But also, like my, being in an abusive relationship, the fact that, like, my daughter's father drank and, abused me. And he has, he definitely has allergy to alcohol. And he becomes somebody completely different, when he drinks. And then, that trauma from that relationship, I, with my addiction of men and intimacy. Like I got with somebody and, they hadn't, they had, I mean, granted, in prison they're drinking Pruno and a Lightning, but, they hadn't got to like drink as an adult outside, at the age of 20 something. So, trauma hit me and I was triggered, one night when we decided to drink and I ended up with a DUI and a child endangerment charge. And so, and that really changed my life. But, there was an instance before that. Like the one thing is for me, some people, and, thank God that some people have never been abused or sexually abused, but, like how she recognized me and how like she even said, even when you have a testimony, sometimes like maybe somebody didn't, especially if somebody might not stay for the meeting, no matter what, when you tell your testimony, you're putting fertilizer down. So it's going to land somewhere. Something's going to grow somewhere at some point. You know what I'm saying? When that moment hits somebody, they'll remember something I said. Just as I remember a lot of things that, these people, these speakers have, their stories. Like I know all the women who come here from HNI, like I know all their stories and I don't mind hearing them over and over, their testimonies, and their years of sobriety, that's what gets us, our strength, their experience, strength and hope. And, but, some people just, and it's, of course it's uncomfortable to hear about somebody talking about sexual abuse and stuff like that. But, I have to talk about these things because for one, and whether it's called normalizing, I mean, I have to learn to not keep secrets. I grew up in a home where secrets were huge, where lying was big, where not telling the truth was, saying this is my example of what being an adult is lying and cheating and running away and insecure, like all these like horrible things, right? But the biggest thing is keeping secrets. The adults in the home had very secretive lives and they were so broken that they kept a lot, like they never even went down, like they never went to therapy, like they never did the work on themselves. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that I was abused and I didn't never learn I was so quick to speak up for somebody else, but I never spoke up for myself. I never stood up for myself. And, and that's probably why I've continued to endure and allow people to abuse me, because I didn't know what was acceptable and what wasn't, and when is a proper time to go. And I also was, being that I, was in addiction young, I'm going places I shouldn't be. Like I'm going into dangerous places. I'm meeting dangerous people. I'm being around dangerous seeming activities and such. But, also I have children. A boy and a girl. And, boy and girl alike, anyone can be sexually abused. Anyone can end up in a domestic violence relationship. It doesn't have to be a man on a woman. Like women do the same thing too. And, the one thing I was able to share tonight that I hadn't shared and I hadn't talked about yet on my YouTube channel is I know that I already had my son when this happened. I know I for sure had my son. I don't know if I had my daughter yet or not. Like I can't remember if she was little or not. But anyways, I had a cousin that I grew up with, and we were really close. And they had recently moved to the area, whatever, and so we were hanging out, and they didn't have work, and so I had bought us Four Locos. I bought us 2 Four Locos each. I was like, cool, man. Like, you don't have to go to work. Like, let's fucking drink, right? So I got us some straws, because the only way I can get through Four Locos is if I just have a fat straw and I just suck that thing down, But after 2 Four Locos, blackout. And so all I remember is like sitting in him and his wife's room, like hanging out, at their place, their house. and we're drinking, and then next thing you know, I'm passed out. But next thing you know, I'm waking up, and I'm laying on the bed, and I'm being molested by my cousin. And I don't ever forget that at all. But it was so traumatizing to me because, like, it was a cousin that I grew up with. I was so close to, and like, and I would always talk about my life to my cousin and stuff, and like his wife and stuff, and so I mean the betrayal. For one, my cousin's married, and like I felt absolutely disgusting. I felt absolutely disgusting. I was in shock. Like, I wake up to like being molested by my own cousin, and him and his wife's room in their marital bed, and I'm just like, whoa. And next thing I know, we're going to get, obviously come to, and then we drive to go get pizza for his wife, and her family, and all of us. And I just remember like my cousin saying the fucking craziest shit to me, like, well, we're family, and it just, I realized then, like it just felt horrible, because I realized, like, a cousin I'm close to, right, like probably one of the very few family members that I have anything in common with, like, and now, I mean, like, the ultimate betrayal, and like, I feel absolutely fucking disgusting. I can't even think of all the words about how I felt. But I just remember, like, when he was saying whatever he was saying, I was like, this guy's fucking sick. Like, in what world would you ever think that, like, I just couldn't believe what my cousin was saying to me. Like, oh, well, I've always been this and that. And I'm just like, we're fucking family, dude. Like, that's not okay. Like, I'm never going to be fucking cool with that. Like, we are fucking family. And I mean, I can't tell you for how long. It just, like, after that point, like, I didn't feel comfortable just hanging out with him. It took a long time before, like, I went over there again. And it's one of those things, like, it's so hard because, I'm super close to his wife. Like we just grew up together. And I mean, like, it's just, and the only person I ever told was his sister. That's the only person I ever told. I remember I told her and her husband. I went and you know what I'm saying? Like, so I did speak up, but I mean, there's no justice there. And I mean, the whole thing is like, too, is like, how do you talk about that? Because you don't want to be like, I mean, obviously, if his wife found out that if she would have witnessed, I mean, if she would, I mean, God, like, she's in the, like, that's disgusting. And she's had her whole, like, me and her can identify with each other because she grew up and has experienced some things that I experienced. So, like, even when, like, the other family members couldn't get along with his wife, like, me and her always got along. And so, and then they always, like, they always had Easter baskets for my kids. And they just always thought about my kids, even though they were struggling and stuff. Like, they always made it a point to, include me and the kids, and that was just horrible. And, it is hard to talk about because there are things that happen. Like, there are definitely things that happened when I was young and I was a kid, and the adults were doing who knows what they were doing. And like, I mean, there are things that shouldn't go on between kids. You know what I'm saying? And obviously it's not super elaborate, but I mean, this is why, like, I mean, just who knows where, like, for me, that was an experience that came and went, and I don't even think I knew what I was doing. I didn't even think, like, there wasn't even that conception of like, what is this act and what is, like, it just kind of like was there and then it wasn't. But then, like, obviously that, some things resonated with somebody else in a different way, and it became an obsession, and it became like a sick thought. You know what I'm saying? Because that's like sick to view any of your family, or to you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like, it was horrible. So, but what's, it's horrible. Sexual abuse is hard to talk about anyway, because everybody just wants to get over it. And then everybody doesn't want to make family, like, no one wants to break up the family. No one wants to break up a marriage. No one wants to break up a friendship. No one wants to break up traditions. No one wants to break up a home. You know what I'm saying? But then, so then everybody keeps these secrets because it would ruin the whole family dynamic. And so then we end up internalizing it, and it's so uncomfortable to think of somebody that you're so close to doing something like that when you are blackout fucking drunk, like, not fucking family not participating, like the fact that happened like that, like the fact that they were able to even get close to living out or be able to experience like a sick fantasy that who knows how long they've been holding on or thinking about something like this. And the fact that they didn't respect me as family member, or as a woman, or as a person, or respect themselves, that they could just thought that they saw they saw their window, they saw their opportunity, and they took it, And so, like, sexual abuse doesn't just happen when you're a kid. It happens when you're an adult too. And, so that was most definitely unwarranted and unwanted. And yeah, it made me feel really fucking gross. And it's really hard, And I'm just so used to being desensitized. I'm so used to like ignoring. I'm so used to like, let's just forget it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what can you do? And, and that's just the thing about, like, I pride myself on being an open book. I'm proud of who I am today. I'm, like, the fact that, this woman tonight tells me, like, I share my story, my year here, and, my relationship with alcohol, and what's gone on, and what's happened, and like, why, like, alcohol is, like, alcohol is evil. And, it gives people liquid courage. It allows people to do things that they can't do sober, that they would never do sober. And it gives them the excuse, well, if I drink a lot, I won't remember, and no one can prove it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have to remember. And it's so accessible, and it's so dangerous because you come inebriated, and people drive, or people lose themselves. When you black out, you don't know what you're capable of. You don't know how aggressive you are, or how submissive you are, or how, like, you don't know if, like, maybe you run. Like, that's what happened to my friend Nate. Like, he was an alcoholic, and he was suffering, and he was drunk, and he was by railroad tracks. And whether he jumped or whether he fell because he was inebriated, like, alcohol took him out. You know what I'm saying? And just, like, alcohol is fucking dangerous because some people can hide it really well, and it allows, there's just the cape that goes on human beings when they're drinking is dangerous. Like, the things that allows people to make excuses for, the things that allows people to do when they're drinking, like, and that's the thing, and that's probably the worst thing about alcoholics too, is because when you're fucking high, unless it's like fucking heroin or something, I guess, like, you know what I'm saying, you don't forget, you know what I'm saying, like, there's nobody on, like, I don't care, like, there's nobody on meth. When people on meth start getting fucking weird, they were already fucking weird, and they know exactly what they're doing, it's just like, and they're not gonna fucking forget it, but there are people who don't know what demons lie within them, and then they start fucking drinking. And they don't know what the fuck's gonna come up. You know what I'm saying? And then and then they can't accept what comes up, and then they'll hide what comes up. But then, you know what I'm saying? But then there are going to be other people who are always going to be willing to be around because, if that person parties and doesn't give a fuck, it gives someone else a reason to party and not give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? But then that's the thing too, is people who drink, like, then they black out and they don't remember, and then they don't, you know what I'm saying? And it's just like, there's nothing else, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no drug like it that allows you to get away with murder and be like, well, I don't remember. I wasn't there. Don't remember. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's fucking dangerous. Like, that's dangerous for someone in the mind of a human being who is sick. It might not know they're sick, or, someone who is carrying a lot of baggage and doesn't know how to deal with it. And so they're drinking. I mean, like, evil things come from fucking alcohol, and that's been my experience. Like, the fact that the fact that my cousin had these things and he didn't go get help, and the fact that he even allowed himself to take this moment to take advantage of me because, obviously I knew I was fucking blacked the fuck out. Like, I mean, the second Four Loko, all I know is I just remember laying down the bed and passing out, waking up on the bed, and, I would think I was wearing a skirt, and that's when I felt myself being molested. And the fact that, like, in no other state of mind would that person have had tried to address that unhealthy, like, thought and fantasy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, would they ever, like, take action to that thought? You know what I'm saying? And I mean, but with alcohol, do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I mean, yeah, like, I mean, if someone's super fucking high on meth, like, yeah, I don't fucking give them the courage to do whatever, but they're fucking there for it. You can't fucking forget it. It just gave you the balls to. But now alcohol allows you to fucking, like, you get to still live in shame. You don't have to really feel your shame because now you have this liquid courage and these blinders on, and you are somewhere deep in your subconscious. You know what I'm saying? And so you're living in your subconscious, so you're not consciously there while all these things, while life is still going on, and yeah, it's just, the point is, like, I mean, I share because it's going to help somebody. I'm fertilizing the ground. Every time I share, I'm fertilizing the ground, and there are people who go through things in life, and there are going to be somebody who can identify with what I'm saying. And it might even be a teen. It might be a woman who, like, I mean, there are so many different, a man. There are some people who just never get to talk about the abuse they endure. And it's horrible because then they die with not being able to, and just, I mean, and like the fact that it makes the victim, the abusee, the one who was sexually abused, I feel fucking disgusting. It made me feel fucking disgusting. And it took a while to, because like I said, I only got to share that with one person, and that was my cousin's sister. I mean, I had to tell somebody, and I didn't know how to process that. And then also, like, I was like, okay, I don't want to leave my kids here now. Like, I don't want, like, these people, not, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was because it just, you just never know. Like, I mean, there are some sick people in the world. And when people look at family members, and when people can do things to people when they're blackout, like, you just don't know where that can go. You know what I'm saying? If someone can do it to you, why wouldn't they be able to do it to somebody else? And that made me fearful. But, it's just like I was able to share that tonight, and I haven't brought that up in years. And I think that's something I keep forgetting. it's not, I mean, it's crazy. It's because I mean, it's a pretty fucking, especially because it wasn't when I was a kid. You know, I was, what, my late 20s or early 30s, somewhere in there when that happened. Um, you know, but it's just as much of a factor, you know, in, you know, my trauma than anything else. And, you know, I can only, I don't know, it makes me feel good to know that I'm on the right path. It makes me feel good to know that I'm picking up what people are putting down. It makes me feel good that, like, I have something that people want to hear. Like, you know, I get told that, you know, that, like, I have the Holy Spirit moving through me, and that makes me feel really good. That makes, because we all want a purpose, and I feel like since I've been without my kids, I don't have a purpose. Like, since I haven't been able to, like, been in that relationship, taking care of a man, that I don't have a purpose. You know, like, I don't have, like, what am I doing? Am I just, like, stagnant in life? But I'm doing really important work here. Like, I can't imagine, like, I could not imagine having as many blessings in this last year of recovery and being at St. John's than I would have going about this process with other, like, another environment, you know what I'm saying, with other people, you know, being in other people's control. And even though it's very difficult, like, every day is a struggle, you know, but, like, I was really happy to have that AA meeting tonight, because there's some things I'm struggling with that, like, are really hard, and it's not an overnight process. And she was like, you can only deal with one thing at a time. And she also said, like, there is peace. Like, you don't have to be, it's not like you don't have to, like, obviously you can't be stagnant, but, you know, being in addiction, you're all over the fucking place, like, mentally, maybe physically, but, like, mentally, you're all over the place. And I just have to stay present and just be grateful for every moment, every day, and give myself some fucking grace. Like, there's so many things I'm going through that I'm just like, gosh, this is going to take so long, or, oh my gosh, this is so painful, or, oh, like, I'm just, like, you know, and just, you know, unhealthy, but healthy things. And I have to give myself some grace and just be grateful for the process, and be grateful and stay present, you know, and just, like, I have a lot of peace today, even though, like, I'm missing a lot of things, and my heart is like, it's crazy how my heart is, like, my feelings are hurt, my heart is broken, but yet I'm somehow pretty full. Like, God keeps me full. My support team keeps me full. My community keeps me full. Like, my recovery process keeps me really full, you know, and my heart is just, you know, it's just, you know, aching, missing my kids and the things that have been done to keep my kids away from me. And then just, you know, obviously being left by, like, you know, the man that I called my soulmate, you know, and just being completely abandoned by him and other people, you know, betrayed, abandoned, and, you know, so all those hurtful things. So even though, like, they've forgiven, and I just pray to God to keep me strong, and I pray to God to relinquish me of, you know, wanting things that I don't need, and wanting things that aren't good for me, and just to, you know, heal from heartache and heartbreak. So that's why I share. That's why I share my deepest, darkest things, because it'll bring light to somebody. It'll give somebody else the courage to speak up. It'll give somebody else the courage to step into the rooms of recovery. It'll even give someone else just the thought that life can be different. Just the thought that if they put themselves first, as we should all be doing, that they can have a different life, that they can have peace. Like, look at where I'm at. Look at how different my life is, and look at what I'm missing. But look how content I am. Like, and how positive I am, and how sure I am and how strong my faith is. No matter what I've gone through, and like through all of these things, like I really truly believe like my life is better today. And I really truly believe that like I have a bright and amazing future, and God has a great plan for me, and God is using me right now. And I couldn't be more grateful to be of service to somebody who actually loves me and wants the best for me. So, I say, Lord 57, be safe and be kind.